Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisance of Salvation Shri Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning, we start a new chapter. Actually, I'm excited. It's always nice when you start a new chapter. We get more and more lessons, more realization. So today we start chapter 13, verse 1, which is of the first canto. And the chapter is entitled Dhritarashtra Quits Home. And the class will be given by Her Grace Vrindavanji Radhika from ISKCON Philadelphia. Without further delay, Prabhu, it's all yours. Haribol.
Haribol. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yes, it's a nice, cold, rainy day here. So
yes, here too.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giravaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giravaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Havanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Manachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Asatara Sata His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Asatara Sata His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikha host Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadar Shiva Sati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Girdhar Govardhan Ki Jai. Mayapurdam Ki Jai. Vrindavandam Ki Jai. Jamuna Devi Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. ISKCON Harrisburg Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Haribol. All glories, ye assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, ye assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, ye assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, ye Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, Hare Hare Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminati Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravana Pracharane Nirvishesha Univadi Pashata Deshatarane. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrita Naram Chaiva Narottama Devam Sarasvatim Yasyam Tatudayam Madhurayat Nastapaya Shubhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloki Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So we'll read the verse and we'll read it together. Shuta uvacha viduras tirtha yatrayam matreyad atmano gatim yatvagad dastina puram tayavapta vivishita. Vidurastirtha yatrayam matreyad atmano gatim yatvagad dastina puram tayavapta divishyati Shri Sutta Uvacha Vidurastirtha yatrayam matreyad atmano gatim yatvagad dastinur puram tayavapta vivishyata. Anyone else?
Sutta uvacha vidurastirtayatrayam matreyadatmano gatim gyavagadastina puram tayavapta vivitsita. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else? Give it a shot.
Sutta Uvacha Vidurastirthayatrayam Maitreyad Atmano Gatim Gyatva Agad Hastinapuram Tayavapta Vivishtitah.
Sutta uvacha viturstirayatrana maitriyatatmano gatim nyatva kad stastinapuram taya vaptya vivitsitah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll do word for word. Sutta Uvacha. Sri Sutta Goswami said, Vidura, Tirtha Yatrayam, while traveling to different places of pilgrimage, Matreyat, from the great sage Maitreya, Atmanaha, of the self, Gatim, destination, Nyatva, by knowing it, Agat, went back, Hastinapuram, the city of Hastinapura, Taya, by that knowledge, Avapta, sufficiently a gainer, Vivishita, being well-versed in everything knowledgeable. Translation of purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Sutta Goswami said, while traveling on a pilgrimage, Vidura received knowledge of the destination of the self from the great sage Maitreya, and then returned to Hastinapura. He became as well-versed in the subject as he desired. Purport. Vidura, one of the most prominent figures in the history of Mahabharata. He was conceived by Vyasadeva in the womb of the maidservant of Ambika, mother of Maharaj Pandu. He is the incarnation of Yamaraj. Being cursed by Manduka Muni, he was to become a Sudra. The story is narrated as follows. Once upon a time, the state police caught some thieves who had concealed themselves in the hermitage of Manduka Muni. The police constables, as usual, arrested all the thieves and Manduka Muni along with them. The magistrate specifically punished the Muni to death by being pierced with a lance. When he was just to be pierced, the news reached the king, and he at once stopped the act on consideration of his being a great Muni. The king personally begged the Muni's pardon for the mistake of his men, and the saint at once went to Yamaraj, who prescribes the destiny of the living beings. Yamaraj, being questioned by the Muni, replied that the Muni in his childhood pierced an ant with a sharpened straw, and for that reason he was put into difficulty. The Muni thought it was unwise on the part of Yamaraj that he was punished for his childish innocence, and thus the Muni cursed Yamaraj to become a Shudra, and this Shudra incarnation of Yamaraj was known as Vidura, the Shudra brother of Dhritarashtra and Maharaj Pandu. But this Shudra, son of the Kuru dynasty, was equally treated by Bhishmadev, along with his other nephews, and in due course Vidura was married with a girl who was also born in the womb of a Sudarani by a Brahmana. Although Vidura did not inherit the property of his father, the brother of Bhishmadev, he was still given sufficient state property by Dhritarashtra, the elder brother of Vidura. Vidura was very much attached to his elder brother, and all along he tried to guide him on the right path. During the fratricidal war of Kurukshetra, Vidura repeatedly implored his brother to do justice to the sons of Pandu, but Duryodhana did not like such interference by his uncle, and thus he practically insulted Vidura. This resulted in Vidura's leaving home for pilgrimage and taking instructions from Maitreya. Om Jnana Tamarandishya Gyananjana Shalakaya Takshar Unmilitam Yena Tashmi Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yeda Buddha Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svadvyantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shri Sati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Chara Swami Niti Namane Snita Chaita Super Native Agamanam Charasa Plutum Prabhupada Gata Pranam Bhakti Charapanam. So I'll read the translation again. Sri Suta Goswami said, while traveling on a pilgrimage, Vidura received knowledge of the destination of the self from the great sage Maitreya, and then returned to Hastinapura. He became as well-versed in the subject as he desired. So here we're bringing in Vidura, and Vidura, and this conversation between Vidura and Maitreya goes on for a little bit. Vidura, as we read here in Prabhupada's purport, was the brother of Dhritarashtra. And we know that Dhritarashtra was blind, right? In the Bhagavad Gita, he's blind, but not just blind materially, but spiritually blind as well. And he made some not great decisions. He chose to go into war with the Pandus. And Vidura, being having trained in the science of self-realization, and having been more awakened than his brother, he tried to guide him along the way to help prevent this battle, this incursion. And so basically he was put out. He was put out. Nirguna was the son of Dhritarashtra, who was really driving this war, driving this battle. And Nirguna said, no, I'm not having any of this. And so he was basically put out. He was rejected by his nephew. His brother did nothing really to kind of stop things. And so Vidura left home. And this is where he really takes the instruction from Maitreya in this part. So Vidura, there's a couple of things that I wanted to highlight today regarding Vidura, because he is a wonderful character, not character, but a personality in this Bhagavatam. And I wanted to read something, and this is going to give a little bit of a highlight or preview, I guess, of what's to come. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote a little bit about Maitreya's instructions to Vidura. And so I'll actually read this excerpt here. And then I want to share a little bit about the Vidura Niti. And the Vidura Niti are really, as Vidura discusses them, these qualities, the qualities of a great person. Okay, so we'll get into the we'll start with the Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writing, because I think this is a really nice just kind of summary or preview of what's to come. So, before the creation of this phenomenal world, the Godhead as such, with his full transcendental effulgence, together with the desire of creation latent in him, was manifest as the absolute entity. Maya, the delusive energy of Godhead, is his eternal potency. The phenomenal world was created through the instrumentality of Maya, from whom the Mahatattva and other elements came into existence. Then the presiding deities of the other elements prayed with the folded hands to the Supreme Lord, craved shelter and indulgence of his lotus feet, that they might be given knowledge and strength enough to carry on what might go to fulfill his heart's desire. The sage Maitreya then describes how the eminent Godhead, entering into the 23 elements, joined them together, how the latter manifested themselves along with the working capacities, and how the Virat Rupa, the most extensive body, was created as the repository of all universal beings. So this is kind of an introduction of Maitreya's sharing this. Hearing all these from the sage, Vidura inquired also how the Nirguna Supreme Personality can condescend to accept attributes and functions for his pastimes, how he, self-contented as he is, can have desires for playing like a child, how a jiva, a potency of that transcendental Godhead, can be subjected to Maya, how the jivas do suffer from forgetfulness of their own real selves and miseries of this world when Godhead lives in them as eminence. To these lengthy queries of Vidura, the sage Maitreya gave a long reply, which is not possible to be written in detail within this short compass. for which the readers are referred to the 7th chapter of the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I just want to dive into these questions for a minute, because these are some really potent questions. So he asks the first question is, how can the Nirguna Supreme Personality can condescend to accept attributes and functions for his pastimes? How he, self-contented as he is, can have desires for playing like a child? How a jiva, a potency of that transcendental Godhead, can be subjected to Maya? How the jivas do suffer from forgetfulness of their own real selves and the miseries of this world when Godhead lives in them as eminence. That last one is really, is very striking to me personally, because it's, how can we be so forgetful of our real selves and the miseries of this world when we have Godhead, super soul, inside of us? And so, to satisfy the curiosity of the readers, only the following lines are culled therefrom. So this is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's kind of distillation, I guess, of some of these answers. So like I said, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but I wanted to just highlight some of these questions and some of the wisdom from Vidura from this exchange. And the wisdom from Maitreya, but with the wisdom of Vidura will come in the next part when we talk about the Vidura Nittis. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur continues. The sage Maitreya replied that Godhead has his majesty quite conceivable to us. He has his external potency Maya, through whose instrumentality jivas suffer their miseries in this world. Sorrow, fear, infatuation are the concomitant attributes of the bound jivas, while in this case of liberated pure souls, they are not so. The sorrows and sufferings of the jivas are the natural effect of their attachments for their mundane bodies, which can be got rid of only by pure devotion and through the grace of Godhead. So there's one answer to the last question. Constant hearing of the chanting of his glories infuses in the jivas an attachment for the service of Godhead, in comparison with which removal of the miseries of the bound jivas is only a negligible item. So, wow. So here he's saying that these attachments, these sorrows and sufferings can be got rid of only by pure devotion and through the grace of Godhead. So, and that constant hearing of the chanting of his glories infuses in the jiva an attachment for the service of Godhead, in comparison with which removal of the miseries of the bound jivas is only a negligible item. That means that this process of pure devotion, chanting, hearing and chanting, makes the removal of these miseries negligible. It's a simple thing. It's done, right? That's the negligible part. It's nothing, right? So here he continues, Vidura's doubts are being removed by the replies of the sage. He made further inquiry about other matters because he was assured that chanting about Godhead would go to benefit the audience and the chanter as well. Maitreya then described how Brahma took his birth from the navel lotus of eminent Vishnu, how all his empirical attempts to search for the absolute proved to be futile, and how through complete surrender alone he could receive the grace of Godhead and see him. In his prayers to Godhead, he said that this world is but a manifestation of his Maya, but he is at the root of all the avatars, that he never leaves the heart of those that always chant his glories, that jivas remain subject to sorrow, desire, and attachments as slaves so long as they cannot fully surrender to him. So here again, these are some really potent but beautiful understandings and lessons. So what to talk of the ordinary run of people, even the intelligentsia, if they become averse to the words of Godhead, are bound to be hurled into miserable world. It was through the grace of Vishnu that Brahma himself received the power of creation. So Brahma tried and tried and tried. Lord Brahma tried to come to absolute, find the absolute, to find absolute truth. And he just was searching and searching, right? So these attempts to search for the absolute proved to be futile, but it wasn't until he surrendered that he could receive the grace of Godhead. So we can apply intellectual understanding and knowledge and search and search and search, but all of these efforts are futile until we really truly come to that point of surrender. And then we receive that grace, that mercy of the Lord. So the 10 kinds of creation of Brahma, his line of descendants, and Manvantara were being described by the sage. Maitreya further described how Brahma created Sanaka, Marishi, and others, Dharma and Adharma, how for the extension of creation, males and females were created from his own body, and how through Daksha, one of the sons-in-law of Manu, who obtained his body from Brahma, this world has been filled with created beings. So we know the different times of Manu. So the Manvantaras is something that is discussed in Bhagavatam and the different cycles of the Manvantaras, the ages of Manu. How Sri Vishnu redeemed the earth from its watery grave in the form of the Vahara boar, and how the same was kept afloat and thereon when he vanished. All those were part of the subject matter of his descriptions. Here the sage Maitreya remarked that anybody who serves Godhead with unconditional devotion is sure to be blessed with the best desideratum of karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti. Bhakti stands foremost of all to bring about the summum bonum of human existence. Therefore, barring the beasts, none should be kept aloof from the service of Sri Hari Jai. So let's kind of parse that out a little bit. So we're getting some really great nectar here from Maitreya, right? So he's saying here, he's answering Vidura's question. So now having heard that, let's go back to Vidura's questions again. So he's asking about the Lord and how he's able to take on some of these childlike play and pastimes, but he's really, how are the jivas suffering? How are we subjected to these miseries of the world, given the fact that we have the soul within us, that we have Godhead within us? So these are very astute questions from Vidura. These are very sincere questions that he's answering. And throughout the Bhagavatam, we will often see questions that are being asked of great sages. And the Bhagavatam is really starting with the sages of Naimisharanya. They're in the forest and they're gathering around and they're asking questions. And so, and this is part of the inquiry, right? When we think about spiritual life, when we think about understanding our relationship with God, there is a sincere inquiry that is involved. If we don't inquire, right, then we may not fully understand the process. So we have to inquire sincerely. And it's not that we are completely challenging, but some of these questions are a bit challenging, right? I mean, Vidura is inquiring, he's saying, how is this possible that Godhead can condescend or descend to accept attributes and functions for his pastimes? So he's like, how is he coming down looking like like he's in a physical body, accepting attributes like he's in a physical body and functions like he's in a physical body with pastimes? Is he playing like a child? Right? How is this possible for Godhead to do this? Can he be subjected to Maya, right? And we know that the Lord, when he descends into the material world, that he is still in his spiritual eminence, that he's taking on a seemingly physical body, but his spiritual potency remains, because he's not truly physical, he's not material, he is spiritual. And this is that Virat Rupa, right? So this is this greatness, this whole full potency. So when Krishna comes, or when Lord Ram comes, or any of the different incarnations of the Lord, they may appear in one way, seemingly material, or having these experiences and pastimes, but they are still the Lord. And so we're not to be confused with our own attributes as, conditioned jivas, the souls, right? The jivas, the souls that are in this material body, right? That as the jiva, that we are not to be confused that we are absent, we can also extract ourselves from Maya, that we are purely spiritual, because we do have these material bodies and these material attachments. And this is where although we are not God, and it may seem very attractive to say we are God, right? This is some of the concepts of the Mayavadi tradition. I am God, you are God, we are all God. We all possess God and within us. So if we were all God, and then we would be able to be separate from the material energies, and we're not. We're intertwined with them. We have these attachments that keep us in this material body until, right, the kind of like drum roll, the moral of the story is until we choose to surrender, right? Pure devotional service. Right here it says in this reading that I just shared with you, the sorrows and sufferings of the jivas are the natural effect of their attachments for their mundane bodies, which can be got rid of only by pure devotion and through the grace of God. Constant hearing of the chanting of his glories infused in the jivas an attachment for the service of Godhead, in comparison with which removal of the miseries of the bound jivas is only a negligible item. So this is very deep, deep wisdom that we can take with us. So so as we're reading about this, and this is kind of a kickoff to what's to come, right? So this is the first verse of the chapter. And so what we're doing is we're setting the stage here. We're setting the stage of all of these questions, all of this wisdom that Vidura is about to receive. He quits his life. He leaves Hastinapura. He leaves because he's been cast out, essentially. He's been rejected. And this, you see this trend throughout Bhagavatam, right? We know that Dhruva, he was very angry because he was not accepted on the lap of the queen and his father, and he wanted to have the kingdom. And he was the son of one of the other wives of the king. And he wanted that kingdom. So what does he do? At 4 years old, he quits that life and he goes into the forest. And what happens in the forest? Well, he comes across Narada Muni, and Narada Muni, who's the great sage, and Narada Muni comes and gives him instruction. And after taking on all of this instruction, his goal with Narada Muni is like, yeah. Just tell me how I can get a kingdom greater than my father's. Right? That's what he's like. He's like, I just want the best. I want a kingdom even better than my father's. Right? So he's this competition here. He's serious. He's not messing around. He really wants to, outdo him. And this is what is this, right? This is the ego, right? He's like, I'm gonna outdo my father. I'm gonna have a kingdom even better than his. So he goes into the forest. He's gonna do all these austerities and earn his way into a bigger kingdom. But what the austerities do, and the instruction from Narada Muni, is they actually give him an understanding of his true position in life. They give him an understanding and a taste for the devotional relationship with the Lord. And after that, he realized, like, oh, what was I thinking? This isn't what I really needed. And then ultimately he is given a planet, not such a bad deal, Dhruvaloka. So, so it worked out. But in the end, what he was really coming to a realization of is that after all of this hankering and praying and austerities for a bigger, greater kingdom, and it's through the process of learning from a great sage that what he came to become a devotee, right, of the Lord. And so like I said, we see these examples of leaving their leaving their kingdom, leaving their families behind. And even, Maharaj Parikshit, right? That's this whole thing that we've been reading. This is part of the narration to Maharaj Parikshit, is that he was bitten by the snake bird, and he was cursed to die in 7 days. So what does he do? He leaves and he goes and spends those 7 days studying the Bhagavatam. And we are, like I said, this is a recurrent example throughout Bhagavatam. And what is it giving for us is it's giving this understanding that when things are tough, when what can we do? We don't leave our lives, right? It's not like we're going to just walk away, but we can turn to turn to the wisdom of the sages, the wisdom of Prabhupada and the Parampara, and turn to the Bhagavatam and all of these things. So there's some great nectar and lessons to be found in all of this. Now, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami gave a really nice lecture about Vidura. And forgive me for 1 second, I had it pulled up, but then it seemed to have scrolled, and it's a very long translation. So bear with me 1 second while I find it again, because somehow I scrolled down. And this gives the Vidura discussing these traits of the traits of a great person. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. I just had it. Okay, we're going to do something else. Okay. So here are these nitis. So he says, Dhritarashtra is saying, so Vidura is like, what are you doing? You're making all these mistakes. This is, you're causing all this hardship and this war. And Dhritarashtra says, tell me, my dear brother, what are the qualities one finds in a wise man and in a foolish man? So these are called the Vidura nitis. Okay, these are the quality, these qualities that he extols. And Vidura says, I will tell you what a wise man should be. A man should aspire for the higher things, ideals in life. The assets of such a man are self-knowledge, exertion, forbearance, and steadiness and virtue. Such a man is wise. Neither anger, nor joy, nor pride, nor false modesty, nor vanity can distract from his purpose. His actions are always done with the thought that they should serve both the worlds. Desire does not tinge his actions. Honest deeds delight him, and he loves what is good. He is unaffected either by honors or by slight. Like a lake in the course of the river Ganges, he is calm, cool, and unagitated. So these are the qualities of what, according to Vidura, the qualities of a wise man. So I'll read them again because I think they're really nice, and they're very much Vaishnava traits too, right? There's the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava. So these are very much some of the traits from a Vaishnava. These are also in Bhagavad Gita, the demoniac and the saints and the demoniac. This is the qualities of the people that are the demigods. So again, here we have the assets of such a man are self-knowledge, exertion, forbearance, and steadiness and virtue. Such a man is wise. Neither anger, nor joy, nor pride, nor false modesty, nor vanity can distract him from his purpose. So his actions are always done with the thought that they should serve both the worlds. Desire does not tinge his actions. Honest deeds delight him, and he loves what is good. He is unaffected either by honors or by slight. That's a tough one, right? He doesn't get puffed up, and he's not taken upon insult either. Like a lake in the course of the river Ganges, he is calm, cool, and unagitated. Those are the good qualities. On the other hand, the qualities of a fool are also easy to enumerate. Scripture is a closed book as far as he is concerned. He is vain. He is proud. When he wants to have something, he will never hesitate to employ unfair means. He has a knack of desiring for what he has no right to desire. Those who are powerful make him envious. Let me tell you about a peculiar attribute of sin. One man commits a sin and reaps the fruits resulting from his sin. But in the end, the sin attaches itself only to the one man, while those many who enjoy the fruits of his sin escape unscathed. A wise king should discriminate the two with the help of one. He must control the three by means of the four. He has to conquer the 5, know the 6, abstain from the 7, and thus he'll be happy. Sounds like a riddle, doesn't it? Again, just to share the riddle of understanding the fools and the wise. Okay, so the fools, scripture is a closed book as far as is concerned. So a fool has no desire to read scripture. It's nothing he is, he's attracted to. He's vain, he's proud. And when he wants to have something, he will never hesitate to employ unfair means. He has a knack of desiring for what he has no right to desire. Those who are powerful make him envious. So this is a good one. There's so much envy, right? God forbid someone else does better than this foolish man. He is very envious, very angry, wants what they have. Okay. And one man commits a sin and reaps the fruits resulting from his sin. This is interesting. So it says, let me tell you about a peculiar attribute of sin. So saying the one that commits the sin is the one that the sin gets attached to. So the ones that reaping the fruits, the results of the sin is not, they're coming out unscathed. So the sin attaches itself only to the one man, while those many who enjoy the fruits of his sin escape unscathed. A wise king should discriminate the 2 with the help of 1. He must control the 3 by the means of the 4. So the 2 and the 1. So he has to discriminate, understanding these traits, and control the 3 by the means of the 4. So what's he controlling? Is he controlling his vanity, his pride, his envy, right? Abstain from sin, abstain from the 7, from the sin. Okay, so we just not commit sin, be mindful, keep himself in check, right? That's what we're seeing. And these are the wise words of Vidura. And so the lecture actually goes on. So Bhakti Charu Swami actually helps to break this down even more. He says a wise king should discriminate. He goes into this a little bit more even. A wise king should discriminate the 2 with the help of 1. He must control the 3 by means of 4. He has to conquer the 5, know the 6, abstain from the 7, thus will be happy. By 1, he means intelligence. By 2, right and wrong. 3, friend, stranger, and enemy. By 4 is meant gift, conciliation, disunion, and severity. By 5, the senses. By 6, treaty, war, etc. By 7, woman, dice, hunting, harshness of speech, drinking, severity of punishment, and waste of wealth. This means that one should know how to discriminate between right and wrong by the use of the intellect. One should discriminate 2 by 1. What is the 2? Right and wrong. What is the 1? Intelligence. So he goes on to say, giving this explanation of these things. We have to keep discriminate against intelligence means thinking, being intelligent, understanding the actions, right? And understanding our purpose, understanding our motivation in life. So again, these are just some things I wanted to share when I was, meditating and researching a little bit on this class for today. I wanted to share some of these things about Vidura specifically, and what he was bringing. He was trying to bring this wisdom to his brother. So what I read from Bhakti Charu Swami was part of the Mahabharata, which is really, he's trying to give guidance. He's trying to say, like, this is not a wise war. This is not what you want to be doing. Yet his brother, although his brother, asked him, well, share with me these traits, his nephew, the son of his brother, said, no, I've got my agenda. They're not getting their kingdom back, right? That's the whole thing. And the reason Vidura and the reason the whole Kurukshetra war happened, there were several insults against the Pandavas, and they lost their kingdom in a game of dice. So they went into the woods and they went away for 12 years. And when they came back, they should have gotten their kingdom back. That was the arrangement. But Duryodhana was like, nope. No, I'm going to keep this. I like this. This is comfortable. I'm not going to give you your kingdom back. Even though it was observed by even, some of the elders that said, no, actually they should get their kingdom back. That was That was the arrangement. This is what's supposed to happen. But Duryodhana broke that. And he said, no, because, he had lust and greed and these traits of a fool, envy. He did not want them to have. He didn't want them to have it before. So he challenged them to a game of dice. He didn't want it now. So he didn't want them to have it now. And so here we have this introduction, if you will, to Vidura. He had the questions of Vidura, the sage advice he was giving his brother, and this is all leading to these stories that are shared with us in Bhagavatam. So if you can remember back, I love the layers in Bhagavatam. So we've got the sages gathered in Naimisharanya, and they're talking the King Parikshit receiving Bhagavatam, and we have Vidura, speaking to Maitreya, getting this wisdom. And so we're seeing so many conversations layered within Bhagavatam, and it's just helping to, I think, provide some of the depth and understanding, and also giving us this importance. If it's being discussed and it's in the depth and all these different layers, it's important. This is important knowledge, and it needs to be shared. So I'll take a break here. Like I said, this is kind of an introductory. From my perspective, I wanted to just share this introduction of Vidura as coming in as this next person that's receiving all of this nectar and wisdom, and give a little just starting point, a jumping off point for that. So any questions, any reflections, considerations?
Thank you so much for this wonderful class, Prabhu. And it's really, it's a nice kickoff, for lack of a better word, to this chapter about the glories of Vidur. And very nice to actually read about, how he became Vidur from the past time. I've heard it before, so it's nice to hear it again and read it actually this time. So thank you for bringing this up and sharing with us. Would like to ask devotees if any questions, any comments, realizations or takeaway, please do share with us. Two things that's coming to my mind, Prabhu. One is I really like the point where I think it's in one of your quotes, you were sharing about the constant hearing.
Yeah.
The constant hearing, I think, is what
constant hearing of the chanting of his glories infuses in the jiva an attachment for the service of Godhead.
Yes, constant. And I think that word constant is a very key word. It's how much are we hearing constantly, or are we hearing whenever, or how can we increase our constant hearing? Because I think the more we hear, the more it purifies our hearts and minds to really understand the position of the Lord within the holy name.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's if we do it kind of just superficially and kind of just in an inconsistent manner, then we're not developing that. We're not developing the ear for hearing as well. And so the constantness of it is what's purifying us. But it's, what does constant chanting look like for us in
Beats me.
Kali Yuga?
The mind is all over the place half the time.
Yeah, I know. It's the thing. I mean, so that's what's being shared as how we really escape these, the Maya attachments. So that's kind of a tall order, constant chanting, constant hearing. And we can try, we do japa. That's a good start. Prabhupada, he was doing, his Guru Maharaj had them doing 64 rounds.
Yes.
So how long would that take? Right. So we're doing 16 and it takes almost 2 hours.
64 is 8 hours.
Yeah. You're talking a whole day of chanting. Right. But that was what was recommended then, and that was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's. That's what he taught his disciples, 64 rounds. Prabhupada came to the US and he said, okay, well, 32 rounds. And they were like, still like, Prabhupada, we still can't get our work done, because that's still 4 hours of chanting. He's okay, 16. And even now we're like 16 rounds, it's 2 hours,
Yeah, my husband, Parikshit, he always, um, periodically he would share this point of how merciful Srila Prabhupada was to us. It used to be 64 rounds. Like you said, it takes about 8 hours, almost 16. I mean, 16 takes almost 2 hours. So that's like a 9 to 5 job, if you think about it, without lunch break. And then by the mercy of Prabhupada, we're chanting 16 and still we have so much problems, and it's just the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Like I was just reading a nice quote by His Holiness Bhakti Swami, and I wanted to share because it's really powerful, where he says that it is very important for us to remember Srila Prabhupada and put him in the center. It is because of him we are here today, and so many conditioned souls are being saved all over the world and will continue to be saved for thousands of years to come.
Yeah.
He
Wow.
says, it is Krishna's exceptional mercy. And I like the word he used, exceptional, it is Krishna's exceptional mercy that he sent Srila Prabhupada to this world. And the more we realize his exalted position, the more grateful we feel towards him, and we make spiritual advancement. And it goes back to what you and I were talking about, Prabhu, is that, it's because of Srila Prabhupada's exceptional mercy that, he has, I guess he knows, I'm sure he knows that he was going to get crazy in Kali Yuga. So he brought it down to 16 rounds. And still we have so much trouble. And I was just thinking, wow, constant hearing, this is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's and yeah, but putting Srila Prabhupada in the center is absolutely, that's the way, because he brought this to us. It is his mercy that enabled this movement to carry on. I'm sure a lot less people would have stayed with it if he said, nope, 64 rounds.
I agree. It would be, like I said, a 9 to 5 job. And even just doing that, it will still involve like you could think about temple devotees, right? They still have their services to carry on.
Maintain the deities and cook and clean and garlands and all that stuff.
Plus 8 rounds of chanting, it's no joke.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely merciful.
Yeah, absolutely. So this constant hearing is not easy, and this is where we hope for Krishna's causeless mercy.
Yes.
Right. This is Krishna's causeless mercy, means that he can provide mercy just because he sees sincerity, or for whatever,
Right.
some past life, actions. And so we don't know sometimes that why Krishna provides mercy. Sometimes he just does. And he takes mercy on us to see that our hearts are in the right place. He gives us, opportunities to grow, and opportunities to connect with devotees and connect with him, and give us, he gives us those boons sometimes, maybe, right? But that's his causeless mercy, and there's no predicting how that can come through. So we keep chanting just because that's our that's our yuga dharma, is to chant. And we chant so that we are hopefully trying to practice remembering Krishna, especially at our time of death. And it's a part of chanting. One of the roles of chanting is a rehearsal. We're trying to get Krishna's name and remembering Krishna infused into our mind. And imagine just those 2 hours a day, and the other 22 hours, so that's 2 hours we're really relying on heavily to train us. But the things that we do throughout our day can also guide us. And some people listen to kirtan, when they're working, or have pictures of devotional pictures on their desk, or just chanting off the beads as much as they can remember to do that. So that helps, right? So anything we can do that helps us to remember.
That was a question. Well, let me ask if others have questions or comments before I ask mine. If there are any questions and comments from devotees, please do unmute yourself and share what is on your mind, what's question you have, a takeaway or a clarification. I have a question, and it's just something that hit me just now, is that, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that Vidur was very much attached to his elder brother. And all along, he tried to guide him on the right path. What's coming to my mind, and also knowing that, his Yamaraj, right? And I'm thinking that, how much is attachment healthy to a point that we have to back off? Like, we know that Vidur tried to guide his brother. He was attached, but it got nowhere.
Yeah.
Until he lost his 100 sons.
Right.
And I don't, and how much he got over that after that, Krishna knows. But how much is an attachment healthy to a sibling, to a family? And when do we just draw a line and says, you know what, okay, I'm attached, but it's not getting me anywhere? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, just from my own personal observation and understanding of attachments, especially to others, is that when the attachment hinders our progress in life, in spiritual life, that's when it's gone. It's not healthy anymore. As long as, with a person, if the attachment is beneficial for the other person and for our own Krishna consciousness, right, that the attachment to that person is out of love, and we're encouraging them, and we share with one another. And but what you're saying about Vidura's attachment to his brother, he was trying to guide him to do the right thing, at what point? And he tried until finally his nephew was like, nah, you're done. Like, really, there's nothing here for you. And so, I mean, it's a tough one.
Yeah, because I do like the point that you said, until if it's hindering our progress, and which means, at least what's coming to me, is that we have to be very aware of, like very in tune with ourselves to actually know, oh my God, yes, this attachment is really hindering my progress. Am I ready to give it up? Am I ready to minimize it? Am I ready to step back? Because attachments, and especially when it comes to relationships, can be so thick.
Mm-hmm.
That even if it's progressive, even if it's hindering our spiritual progress, we still, it's like, okay, but I got to do it. And then we just suffer spiritually.
Yeah.
Like, we have to be strong enough. I think we have to be strong enough to be able to step back when it's hindering our spiritual life.
Yeah. And that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
Especially when it's family, right?
Yes.
When we have attachments to family, it can cloud things very much so. And I think, this is where we can, in my view, this is just my own perspective, but where we can turn to prayer, and pray for that person, still continue to be there as a kind of in a loving way, but not to the point where it pulls and this is just in life in general, right? So when we get into relationships that are detrimental, or they might be we're too attached, and attachment means, what is attachment? If we're living in fear constantly, they might leave or die or whatever. That is attachment. And that's hard. Parents feel that for their children, for their spouse, we feel it for our spouses and, parents. It's not an easy thing. This fear is part of the anxieties of the material condition, the conditioned soul. And these are things that we're not meant to be cold either, right? It's not that we turn those emotions off and just become very cold. That's not the answer, because that's aversion.
Yeah.
Ultimately, and aversion is also detrimental to spiritual life. So it is through the daily practice, the chanting, the hearing, that eventually these attachments and aversions become neutralized on their own.
Yeah, it's so true.
And it's like it says here, it's like it's becomes a non-issue, right? Like in the verse that I read, it says that it's negligible. It's like the attachments are negligible. They're easy to remove. They're just like, there's not much there. It's a natural process.
It becomes very dry.
Yeah. Things just naturally dry up or just level out,
Yeah.
and that's just a process that it can't be forced. It can't be manipulated. We just have to keep going through the process in our hearts and stay with it.
Yeah.
And over time, things will gradually smooth out.
Yes. And I think also, prayer is definitely such an important point in a devotee's life. I think sometimes we get so, we minimize the power of prayer.
Yeah.
Because, yes, we have our 16 months of chanting. Yes, we have to do that. But at the same time, prayer is so important. It's like I'm talking to God. I'm talking to the Lord and I'm crying out to him. I think it's so important, prayer. It's like a talk with God. So that's really nice.
Have a talk with God. Stevie Wonder wrote a whole song about it.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. I have to go to that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stevie Wonder, Have a Talk with God.
Yeah, I know his other famous song, but not this one. Okay.
Yep. And look it up today.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Any other questions from devotees? Any thoughts, reflections, discussion, realization? Please do jump right in before we end the class. And such a wonderful start actually to this chapter, and a nice topic that is Vidur that is starting off. So this is very, very nice. And if there are no questions, no reflections, we thank you all for joining us. And thank you so much, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. Thank you for kicking it off as we dive deeper. And thank you to all the devotees for being here. Vanchakraptibhyascha, Kripasindavevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai. Thank you, dear Krishna Prabhu. Have a wonderful day. He had a little comment.
yes, thank you. Yes, he said very nice thing about prayer. I realize when we are chanting, we are infecting, making a prayer. It should be in a prayerful mood. Yes. Thank you, dear Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Very nice lecture also. Wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai.